Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is the Town of Somers Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is March 28th, 2023. Denise, would you please take the roll?
Ms. DiPolito?
Here.
Mr. Gio?
Here.
Mr. Hardin?
Here.
Mr. Lansky?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mr. Padavani?
Here.
Chairman Canestra?
Here.
Thank you.
I request everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America and to the
Republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to make mention first that the zoning board met previous to this meeting in executive session to discuss legal issues surrounding the item number 5 on the agenda, which is the application of Victor and Deborah Wu. The board has decided that we would like to get some further information from the applicant, the Wu's, and the next door neighbor in regard to the timeliness of the second application and whether it is materially different from the first application filed, and therefore it is a matter that we can hear. So that's what we are going to request that both sides provide. This item has been carried over to the April 18th meeting. And was there anything else that any board member requested? I think, Tom, you had a request.
Yes, for Denise and Tom, if we could just get a clear timeline of the December 23rd application submission. And if that application was ever subsequently withdrawn, as was suggested in some of the legal briefs. So we don't need that now, just a timeline of, just to be very clear on when that was first received and if there were ever any requests to withdraw it.
Okay. Yep, I can get that information to you.
Okay, great. So the board at the April 18th meeting will hear from both sides, the Wu's and the neighbor, and we'll also review all the documents and we'll make a decision as to whether the second application was materially different.
Okay, thank you. I'll be in touch with everybody.
Right, and then therefore whether we can hear the application. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to our right to the agenda this evening. First item is that of David and Christine Brooks. This is an application to renew a special exception use permit for an existing accessory apartment in an attached accessory to an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district at 30 Lake Road, Katona. Is there someone here to speak in regard to this application?
Yes, I'm here, David Brooks.
Okay. Denise, we cannot see anybody on screen. We can hear them.
Yeah, it's because here we go. There's David Brooks.
All right, here I am.
Hello, Mr. Brooks. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. And you are the owner of the property and reside at 30 Lake Road, Katona?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay. Can you briefly describe your application? This is a renewal, so you currently have the apartment in place?
Yes, my mother-in-law lives in the apartment roughly half the year. Otherwise, it's unoccupied.
Okay. Have there been any material changes to the apartment since its last renewal?
No,
Okay. And Denise, has Tom been able to get out there and review the apartment?
Yes, he did inspect the apartment.
Okay, and I see we do have an accessory apartment checklist here before us. I looked at this before. I just want to review it one more time here.
It's worth noting that the building that contains the apartment was not constructed prior to April 1st, 1992, which is usually a requirement.
Right, so this is an exception.
Yeah, we have a handful of them.
We can grant a variance for that.
Wouldn't it have already been done when?
it was a condition on me buying the property.
Yep.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, this was originally granted. I guess technically we probably should vote again that we would give an exception to the date.
Right.
I'm not sure about that, Vic.
Well-
Because I think it was that they were given the special exception use permit under those conditions at that time. I'm not sure that you can now, how many years later, say, yeah, no, we're not okay with that, and tell them to get rid of their apartment. I'm not sure that you can do that.
So you're saying, Denise, there's a variance on record?
Yes,
Saying that.
yeah, otherwise they wouldn't have
Well,
gotten
they would
this
have
far.
Well, it's a special exception use permit. It's not technically,
Right.
She's saying that
and there's a variance, I guess, in regard to the time.
Right.
But
the permit doesn't make a variance.
No, she's saying there's two.
If there is a variance, and that resolves that.
But in order to get
Yes.
a permit, if you're suggesting in order to get a permit, you need a variance, then clearly they must have received one. Otherwise, they would have not gotten.
now,
a
does the
permit.
variance expire when the special exception use permit
Variances
expires?
do not
No.
expire.
Permanent, right?
Variances run with the land, so assuming it would be in the file, though.
Yeah, in order for them to come before you for an special exception use permit to create this apartment, and it was not built before 1992, there would have had to been an exception made back during that time in order for them to get, this is since I've been here, this is his second renewal.
Right, so we're assuming the variance is in
So-
place.
Right.
Originally permitted in May of 2000, it looks like. So at that
Mhm.
time,
Yeah, that was the previous owner.
must have given it a.
Previous owner, right?
Fair enough.
Okay. And Denise, do you know of any complaints against the property or disturbances in the neighborhood?
There are no complaints, but I do want to go on record. There is a letter in your packet from Mr. Brooks, and this was also part of the original, when this was all put together, that the apartment could only be for his mother-in-law, Marion Connolly, as long as she is on this earth. And once that is no longer in existence, the entire application is going to be looked upon again.
So
So
that
I
would have
wanna-
been a
That
condition.
was a
of the
that was
variance.
a condition, so I want to make
Condition
sure
of the
that gets.
variance.
Condition of the
Yep.
variance.
Permit
Yep,
And to be a family member.
of the permit. Okay.
Yeah, condition of the permit.
There might have been a here.
So David, how's your mother-in-law?
But you can't.
Good. She's healthy, she's driving.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant at this point in time? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in regard to this application, or is there someone who wants to come online and speak? If you do wish to speak in regard to this application, there's phone numbers on screen. You just have to call one, punch in the Zoom meeting ID number, and we'd be happy to hear whatever comments you have. So I'll just leave it open for a half a minute and see if anyone would like to speak. Is anybody here in the audience want to speak in regard to this application? No. While we're waiting, any further comments from the board? Any other questions, issues? I'm good. Yeah.
I think then in the renewal of this permit, we would have to put that condition back in if it expires in 7 years.
I think that would be a good idea.
yes, I will put all that pertinent information in there.
That's probably one of the reasons we granted the variance regarding the time, because of the individual involved. Yeah. Okay, Paul, I don't think there's anyone coming online for us. Nope. Okay. Okay, last chance. Any further comments from the board? Does the applicant have anything further? Mr. Brooks, anything further you wish to say in regard to this application?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion as to the type of action.
Move type 2. Second.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Mr. Padavani,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye. And we have a motion whether we're going to grant the special exception use permit and any conditions we would put on it.
I'll make a motion to grant the special exception use permit for another 7 years and with the condition that is only in effect for the duration of the lifetime of the mother-in-law occupying the apartment at current date.
I second.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Mr. Padavani,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Brooks. Your application has been granted for another 7 years.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Brooks. I'll be in touch regarding the certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to the second application on the agenda this evening. This is the application of Natalia. Denise, I'm going to need some help with the second name.
Okay.
Vishnevskaya?
Vishnevskaya. Yes.
Vishnevskaya.
Okay, thank you.
You're
I'm so-
welcome.
This is an application for a side yard variance for an existing attached garage to an existing dwelling in an R10 residential district at 70 Mill Road, Yorktown Heights. Someone here to represent the applicant? Yes, if who's ever representing the applicant, could you please come up to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record?
Good evening, everyone. This is Anna Bermeo. And I was the realtor during the transaction.
Okay, and is this the owner
Yeah.
next to you? Okay. All right. Could you briefly describe the application, what you're requesting of the board this evening?
Yes, this is for an existing garage that was too close to the property line. So we are requesting to keep the garage.
How long has the garage been there?
It's been since, I believe it's 1954.
I can help out here if you need any help.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, Denise.
You're
can you tell
welcome,
us when the
Anna.
garage was built?
Yeah, so the house dates back to the 40s. The garage was built in the 50s. There is a permit. It's all valid. When the house was on the market, Anna knew that the owner wanted to do perhaps put an addition on. And during that discussion, it was discovered that this existing garage was too close to the property line. So Tommy told them before anything else could be, discussed, they had to get a variance for that existing garage. Obviously, if they don't get the variance, then they have to take the garage down, which is like a concrete block, very well built garage.
What's the date of our code? When do we start doing?
The middle 40s.
We did zoning in the
So-
fourth?
Yeah, so somehow in the 50s, this was built and permitted, and a certificate of occupancy was issued, and it was too close to the property line.
Because it looks like there's a 15 side yard setback here.
Right.
Only 6.2 feet exist. And so the relief sought is 8.8 feet. So it's fairly substantial.
Yes. But it's been there for an extremely long period of time. Forever.
And the zoning code might have been different in 1950.
Or were the lot lines different?
Well, yeah, we don't know.
Is there an empty lot in between that property and the one next to it?
I guess Airy Road.
No,
I see.
No. no.
The survey we have, is that showing the house that's next door to you?
No.
That's not a house. That's not the edge of a house there.
No.
I mean, I'm just looking at an aerial satellite view. It does seem that building, there's some trees and then some yard.
It's just some trees that they have there, but
Okay.
not much of a structure.
Looks like the adjoining property's frame garage is also within the setback. Right?
Much closer. Yeah.
Different issue. It's not before us, but I just would make mention. Cascading effect of zoning violations, yes. I would make mention also, this is an R10 zoning district, and this lot is 23,000 square feet, so it's more than double for what it's worth, but, you know.
It just seems the space is lengthwise and not width.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of backyard here.
Denise, has there been any comment from the next door neighbor?
So all of the neighbors within 250 feet of the property line receive public notices. I will tell you that a handful did call me, and when I told them what it was all about, there were no issues. I told them if they had, you know, any issues, they needed to be present or at the very least, you know, write me, and I've heard from no one.
Okay, yes, certainly they could be present for this public meeting. So let me ask you, the adjoining property, is their garage also very close to the property line? It looks like from the,
Closer.
yeah, it looks like from the site plan.
It's a shed.
It's a shed. It says frame garage. Maybe it's a shed. So it looks like your garage, some space, the property line, some space, then their shed is right there, right? It's right across. Right.
It's a garage.
It says frame garage. Oh, is it a garage?
It's a garage.
Oh, there you go. We got a frame. Got it.
Okay.
Yes. And that would suggest that it's not a granting a variance with an impact.
Under these trees over here.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right.
They're even closer. Excuse me, I'll leave.
And what does this other drawing relate to?
No.
Where-
Oh, there's a second one of this?
New garage?
No, I think that's the next person.
That's
Tommy wanted that included in the packet. And I think that's part of what you will use for the addition. It
Oh,
was that one sheet.
so here it says new garage. So really, the drawing is the existing garage,
Sure.
but when they make a future renovation, they would make renovations to the garage as well, I guess. So if granted a variance for the setback, there are plans to renovate this garage?
You plan to
No,
No,
maybe the door, but no.
right.
Yeah.
You will.
Does this come straight out to the street?
No,
It comes out to the driveway.
driveway's over there.
I see it goes around, but
Goes around, yeah. So does the driveway go all the way around the house?
yeah.
Oh, is that how, so, oh,
Part of it is street, and then, so the house is like a corner, in the corner.
right, so you
Come
come,
from 7 Old Mill Road. It's a street, and then there's a driveway, and there's 2 other houses there.
do you share a driveway with the neighbor?
No, just a street, like a private kind of street, looks like.
It looks like your driveway is off of Old Mill Road. It goes around the house, okay. It looks like it's a large driveway,
Yes.
like maybe going onto the neighbor's property too?
It
Yeah.
not going into, but it's it's the driveway and then it goes to each house.
It's like, it looks like one driveway with 3 houses.
Oh, so it's a shared driveway. Multiple houses use the same driveway.
Yeah. the
Yes,
same-
okay, that makes sense to me, because
Oh, okay.
the driveway is half on your property and half on the neighbor's property, according to the site, to the,
Kind of like that, yeah.
to the site plan here, okay. Okay,
Driveway.
And so the house is 2-story, but the garage is 1-story.
Correct.
the garage has electricity to it?
No, the house is 1 story
Mm,
frame, according to the.
No,
No.
No lights in the garage?
No
No.
lights in the garage.
No plumbing,
Well,
no.
I guess it's the elevation. You see, I'm just looking at this.
Yeah.
plan. So this is the garage. And the house sits above the garage.
Yeah.
You have it on. Weird. So they drive, they go into the garage, shoot around the back.
Yep.
And turn left onto the driveway and come out on Old Mill Road.
Exactly.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking about is once there's a variance for this garage, it can be renovated, it could be built up. Right?
Of course.
Well,
Good.
it could be built within these measurements, yeah.
The question, that's not part of the test.
Yeah.
The test.
They're not asking us about
Well,
that.
we could put a condition on it, put a second story on it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know.
the question is how does it impact the neighborhood? And if you go around this neighborhood and you look right next door and the garage is closer, and you go up in this neighborhood and there's smaller lots and there's a lot of things close to within the 15-foot setback, I don't see that it impacts the neighborhood.
And if it's not self-inflicted or.
It's arguably, it was permitted. And if it had needed a variance at that time, it should have gotten a variance at that time.
Right. Okay.
All right, maybe we should get public comment. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in regard to this application, or anybody who wants to come online to speak in regard to this application? Once again, the phone numbers are on screen, and you just have to hit the Zoom meeting ID number and you can come on. We'll give a half a minute or a minute. Anybody here wish to speak in regard to this application? Further comments from the board or discussions to be had here?
I'm good.
So the existing garage, does it have a peak roof on it? Is it a flat roof? What is
It
it?
looks like a flat
It's
roof.
like a flat pitched roof, I would say.
Flat.
Flat, but a little
Do you
bit.
have this one?
See it?
Okay,
This is a side view.
right. And then there's
So the roof is flat and pitched down.
yeah, and a little window there on the side.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
window in the sun.
Are there shrubs or trees or things between the garage and the neighbor's property?
A couple of trees.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Trees and things?
No trees.
Couple of trees, I guess so.
There is a pine.
Not a lot of room there.
No, there's not. Paul, do we have anybody coming on? No, we have nobody coming on. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think they referred to the fact that the reason this came up is because they were talking to the building department about doing some renovations to the house, which is where this drawing comes from. And it does appear that they're going to improve this with siding and windows and a new door. So it'll look even better than it does now.
right.
Then there's no plan here for anything in addition to it, just making what's there look a little nicer.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, any further comments from the board?
No, good.
Any further discussion? Does the applicant have anything you wish to say before we vote on the application? No? Okay. Does it look two-story to you?
No, the garage is one, the house is two.
The house.
House is two. Yep, that's what we saw. Okay, I'd like to have a motion as to the type of action.
Make motion type 2. Second.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Mr. Padavani,
Aye.
Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion whether we're going to grant or deny the variance?
I move we grant the variance. Second.
Ms. DiPolito,
Aye.
Mr. Gio,
Aye.
Mr. Hardin,
Aye.
Mr. Lansky,
Aye.
Mr. Newman,
Aye.
Mr. Padavani,
Aye.
and Chairman Canestra.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, your
Thank you.
variance application has been granted.
Thank you.
All right, good luck with the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda this evening is that of Danielle Fennessy. This is a discussion regarding an application to renew a special exception use permit as a new owner for an existing accessory apartment in an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district at 31 Valley Pond Road, Katona. And this says a discussion as opposed to an application. I assume this means it's an application for a special exception use permit.
No. So
Explain to me.
this has been quite an interesting story. Danielle, so I included in your packets a timeline, so to speak, of this property. It's on zoning department letterhead. It's dated February 2023, 31 Valley Pond Road. I think it's like super important to pay attention to all of this information. I can memorize their file. I've been in it so many times. And to sum it up, it was built in 1966. And it turned out that the original owner put an illegal one-bedroom accessory apartment in the house. And he had it legalized when Ron Carpinetto was the building inspector, and his architect was Roy Van Lent. Then it gets sold to the Dillons. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Dillon have been before you twice since I've been here to have this accessory apartment renewed. The permit for the apartment, it was inspected by our former building inspector. And then Danielle bought the house in 2021. And I had been speaking to her and her husband prior to that, and they knew that they had to renew the permit as new owners within 6 months of purchasing the house. So they submitted an application to me. I asked Tommy to go out and do an inspection, and Tommy physically carries the plans with him to the house. I'm not sure that was ever done in the past. And Tommy immediately noticed when he got to the house that the plans that were in the file don't match the plans of what this accessory apartment should be. Needless to say, Danielle and her husband were extremely upset over this. They bought the house because they wanted the apartment and they needed the income. And now we are, almost 2 years into the game, and we've been back and forth with them. And Tommy suggested that, technically what should, I guess, happen is they should hire an architect and return this apartment to the way it should be. However, their feeling is, are you kidding me? For the last 30 years, the prior owner got at 3 renewals on their permit for an apartment that was incorrect then. We go further, there's a letter in their application from, an architect who feels like the Dillons certainly did not make changes to that apartment, that perhaps this apartment was approved from day one, not to the plans that were submitted when the permit was issued. So Danielle and her husband, feel like they should not have to be, for the lack of word, punished, so to speak, for a mistake that was made probably before they were born. I can attest to that. And they're looking for some kind of, they truly feel like this is a hardship. And ideally, I think what they would like is for this board to approve, to come back with an application with the plans for the house and have them approved as is, rather than having them get rid of this apartment. Anyway, it's all there. I think you could see kind of what was, laid out there. And so Tommy said, instead of, going through an application, he felt it would be better for Danielle to come before you to have a discussion as to what you might feel comfortable with. And is noted, it's noted halfway down there that the existing apartment is 1,100 square feet.
Right, and the code requires no more than 800.
Correct.
And it's also 2-bedroom.
Right.
On a
Well-
second floor.
On a second.
Well,
So there's three.
in and of
variants,
itself,
to
that
be
wouldn't
clear?
matter. It's just that that doesn't reconcile with the original plan.
Exactly.
Right.
So there's two variants.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Well, at least two variances.
So-
Is it the applicant's position that you are not looking to conform the apartment to the code?
Well, she's.
Yeah, Danielle,
she's wanted the form.
So Danielle, can you just, for the record, can you just give us your name and where you reside?
My name is Danielle Fennessy and my address is 31 Valley Pond. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yes. Could you describe for us what so before you draw the plans and do construction work, I assume you'd like some guidance as to what the board.
Well, hold on
Okay.
a second. I actually just want to clarify something. So when we purchased the house, the actual floor plan is exactly what you guys show on that permit for the accessory apartment, right? So the only thing that's an issue is that the second floor and the first floor on the plans that you show is switched with what is actually in this house. The actual floor plan is exactly the same. So I don't know who flipped what, but that floor plan, it's not different than what it is. It's just flipped.
You mean the upstairs is downstairs and the downstairs is upstairs? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Like the accessory apartment shows on the plan as the middle floor, but really it is upstairs. And if you look at the way that the house is actually constructed, and we had an architecture come in here as well, and he agreed, that's exactly how this floor plan was. I mean, the electric is in certain areas that a doorway couldn't be, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so I don't know who did the approvals on all of this, but the floor plans are switched on what is actually here in this house.
I think we understand that the hardship isn't self-created. I just want to be clear on what the ask is.
Well,
The
I
ask-
need to be clear too that it actually is, because I had to change my career because I was no longer allowed to rent out this accessory apartment. So it was contingent on, my mortgage is contingent on the accessory apartment. So it is a hardship, and it's something that has now affected my family, and now I don't see my kids. So it is more than just a hardship.
Yeah,
So
I think
this needs to be talked further.
we agree with you on the hardship part, I believe.
Yeah, I wasn't disputing that. All I was trying to say was, I want to make clear for the board what the ask is. I think it is a variance to go from 1,137 square feet to 800 square feet.
Well, actually on the plans too, if you look at it, somebody along the years went in there and got an agreed upon additional square feet. It's on that original plans, a variance on the plans. So if you look at the original plans, it says it on there.
The upstairs apartment is actually how many square feet?
I don't understand.
Denise, there's no variances in place on this property that you're aware of?
so I think it's, for lack of a better word, it's simply, according to what we have, the apartment was approved. And thank you for clarifying that, Danielle.
Additional square feet.
According to the plans that we have, the apartment was approved
Yeah.
for the middle floor as it is, but it's on the second floor.
But
It's
it
not
also-
on the middle floor. So Tommy felt like it's inaccurate. It says, the plans say that the apartment is on the middle floor, but it's on the second floor. And
And what's the explanation for the second bedroom?
what do you mean the expiration? I'm sorry.
Explanation is what I said.
Oh,
So-
so that's what got approved. And whenever
It was
he,
approved as 2-bedroom.
correct. And it was
137
approved for
square.
1,137 square feet. It's
Which is
just
more
in
than
the wrong location. It's in the wrong place. It
So
should be in the middle.
the previous, Denise, are you saying the previous special exception use permits acknowledged and okayed the extra square footage of 337 square feet and the second bedroom?
At least
Yeah.
twice. Yes, at least
At least twice.
since the 1990s.
So when the Dillons bought the house in 1995, it was exactly the way it is right now. And they renewed the special exemption use permit as the original, as new owners, and it continued to be renewed from 1995. So let's say, you know, it was done in 2002, it was done in 2009, it was done in 2016. So it's been approved, it was approved as a new owner and several times renewed based on where it is and that it matches the plans on file, but it's in the wrong, in a different location.
I do also see that there is a letter here from DeMassey Architects attesting to the fact that in their professional opinion that the layout of the apartment is roughly the same since 1995, as indicated by the trim and finishes. So that's some
Right,
no changes have been made, at least from 1995.
and we requested that, you know, letter of him because we felt that was important. That the Dillons must have bought this house the way it was legalized, the apartment was legalized. They didn't change anything, but it was legalized the way it is.
So Ms. Fennessy, are you just revising the plans at this point in time, or are you also doing changes to the building? Are you making changes to the structure at all? Are you doing any renovations, or is this just getting the plans straightened up and getting this apartment?
Yeah,
approved?
exactly. It just needs to get approved. Because again, my mortgage was contingent on having this rental income.
Right. But you're not doing renovations to the house inside or out at this point in time. That's not
No,
the reason for the plan change.
no.
Right, so they'd like an approval as is. So a variance they would need a variance for 337 square feet.
Which is substantial. I mean,
Over the allowed 42%. And they would need a variance for the second bedroom.
So the,
And I think they need
Not-
a variance
not
for the
necess-
second way out of the place too. There's only one ingress and exit.
oh, is
Two
it? Is there?
entrances into our, there's
I
two
only see
entrances.
one.
There's two entrances into our house as well as a garage.
Yeah, see, Tommy, when we
I don't see that
discussed
as
all
a-
this, yeah, Tommy
part of
felt
the
like
assessment code.
ultimately
Are you looking where the black is? Yeah. That's the apartment.
Mhm.
This way back here, they come in the back of the house
So
and they have one way in and one way out. We usually look for a second way.
But Bill, I guess all I'm saying is that the accessory apartment code, right, talks about 800 square feet. And it doesn't talk about egresses, which is a building department issue. It's not our issue.
Huh. Okay.
And I find it interesting. So on the previous application, we kind of went along with the idea that it must have been part of the special exception use permit to have granted a variance for the change. And so if that's the theory we're following versus having variances in the file, then this one falls under that.
But here we're being told there is no variance.
Well, but the other one, there was no variance in the file. It's just an assumption of a variance based upon there being a special exception use permit. That was the first application tonight.
Right, but we asked Denise if there was a variance and she said, yeah.
There are no
No,
variances.
I don't think so.
I asked.
but Melissa, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me. It basically, when they go to get a permit, when they go to before the zoning board to get the okay for a special exception use permit, based on whatever was presented at that time, then they go and they get, it was kind of all part of the package. Do you see what I'm saying? And in this case, it's, we're basically talking about the same thing. because when Mr. Miskowitz went to legalize his apartment, it was 1,137 square feet. It had 2 bedrooms. It matches the floor plan that we have on file. However, it says that it's on the middle floor and not the second floor. So one is to assume that through the process, he decided to put it on the second floor instead of in the middle floor, and it got CO'd as such. So ultimately, go ahead.
Typo.
When, I don't think so. So
No, it's not a typo.
So I think what happens is our code says we can grant a special exception use permit if it meets the ABC and the general standards, and it shall be subject to those things. So we have the right to do that. Technically, we should be granting a variance if it doesn't meet ABC. But in the past, the habit of the board was to not grant a specific variance, but just to grant the special exception use permit. And so we don't have a specific variance on file, but we're now into kind of rocky terrain where we're saying this was issued several times. They issued it based upon this, and they granted it before. And, you know, maybe we should give their decision some deference. But that's just the way I see what's happened.
And that's what we've discussed, Bart, to essentially say, yeah, you can apply for a special exception use permit, and it'll denote that the apartment is on the second floor of the house, not on the middle floor of the house. That's what the ultimate hope was. And that's why Tommy suggested before they put through a formal application that this be discussed with the board. Tommy and I have spent a major considerable amount of time on this with Danielle, with her husband, with her father-in-law. And this is what we ultimately came up with, which is what has taken so long. So that's basically what the presentation is. And now, you know, whether or not you guys are willing to do that, because it's not, I mean, this is a history that's, you know, going on for a long time of from the time this was legalized until now, and how many times a building inspector was in there to inspect and say to the zoning board, oh yeah, nothing's changed.
And there's something that people have reasonable expectations when they buy something, that if the title report comes back clean and it has a special second use permit, that there's no violations, and that they can continue to enjoy it and get a mortgage and be in conformance with that. And so it does lean in a little bit.
And right. And by not having those variances, as you say, may have been the habit of the board, every 7 years, they're subject to a denial.
Yeah.
Based on not having those variances.
Versus getting a variance, applying for the variance, getting the variance, and having it be with the building for life.
Right.
That would be their better choice, but we're here for a discussion, I think. We're not,
right.
We don't, Denise, we don't have an application in front of us.
No, so we told Danielle that we didn't want to take a formal application and a check and whatever until we got a feel for how you guys might react to this. If you guys felt like, you know, yeah, it's a hardship, we get it. Let's, you know, look at an application and just to approve it on the second floor. But if you guys felt adamant about, nope, it should be on the middle floor, it's got to be switched in the house, whatever, you know, we just, that's why we put this down as a discussion, because Tommy truly felt like this was a hardship.
What floor it's on to me, doesn't make a difference. I mean, yes, getting the plans squared away would be good, but in terms of the legality of a accessory apartment, it doesn't really matter what floor it's on.
No,
I agree with Tom that the floor it's on doesn't make any difference.
So if we can,
Question is, it's 1,100 square feet, and we have a code that says that accessory apartments should be 800 square feet.
right.
So you're asking us to give her a 300 and some odd square foot variance.
How,
Danielle, you
I'm not asking you to do anything other than keep what you've been doing since the 90s, right? Every 7 years, you guys have been, maybe not you all, but you guys have been approving this every 7 years. Somebody's in here to check the boxes, and now all of a sudden it's an issue. I mean, that's what I'm asking, is to keep what's been happening and how I bought the house.
Well, we appreciate that, Danielle. We appreciate the fact that you're even here for a discussion. I think that was a very good decision on somebody's part. But now that we're having a discussion, I think what you need to do minimally, I think, is apply for a variance for the size of the apartment.
Yeah, and I think we're trying to find a way to get there and just for you.
although
You mentioned that you mentioned that you thought that the square footage might be overestimated, because that would help if it were.
I don't know what you mean.
I thought you said something to the effect of the 1,137 square feet,
Yeah, that's what it says on the plans.
but you think it might be less?
No, I think that's what it is.
That's what the actual measurement is.
I just measured
yeah.
it.
And it showed 2 bedrooms
Okay,
back
that's
in
what
1990, whenever, when it was legalized. It showed that square footage and it showed 2 bedrooms.
To be clear here, I'd like to just check the plans. Is this shaded area the accessory apartment?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I see one bedroom
It's fine there.
over on the right. Where's the second bedroom?
There isn't one.
And then what is this?
Of the apartment.
Well, that's the question. Is that part of the accessory apartment?
No,
It
those-
is.
I'm looking at the plans and I don't understand the dimensions of the accessory apartment. It looks like that the access to the accessory apartment is
from the back,
from the back through a sun porch. Is that correct?
something there.
So
Yeah,
that's
sun-
what they're saying, but the actual, yeah, I mean, but the upstairs is what actually looks like this L part. And the part that's white, like on that second floor, where it's the white part on the second floor, there was never any door there where it says there's a door into the bedroom. There's actually electric there.
So that
And-
bedroom, is that part of the apartment?
I mean, it's a part of the second, it's part of the second floor. I mean, it's
Part of the existing apartment.
it's part of, I guess, what they're showing as the existing apartment, but there's no, I mean, it's not, there's no access there. There's no walls there like that.
So is the whole second floor the apartment?
Yes.
Is it true the whole second floor, Danielle, is the apartment?
Yes, but it's so, yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain, obviously, because you can see the way this is drawn. It's not accurate to the way the house looks. So,
But you're going to rent out the entire second floor, correct? That's what you
so-
desire to do.
yeah, upstairs.
So that's 1,600 square feet. The second. To be clear.
There's not that.
And that's
Yeah,
what I
that-
understand.
So, but
Where do you get that?
I multiplied 48 by 34. And that's the size of the footprint, and I get 1,632. Just
Yeah,
by-
but I
you asked
think
for
there's part of that, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, because Tommy confirmed the 1,137 square feet. Is there, I think there's part of that isn't part of there's like certain cutout or something, Danielle, that's not part of the apartment, am I correct?
Well, there's like, so again, what it's showing as the top floor, there's actually the walls that are there for the second floor. So yeah, if the doors are locked, then it wouldn't, that space would no longer be there. So it wouldn't be access to it.
Can I suggest something to the board?
Oh, so that's not.
So the idea of 800 square feet is that it's a fraction of the house, and the primary use of the house is there's a family, and the accessory use is something smaller.
Right.
So if we condition this on a number of occupants, that's another way to get there. And defer to the approval of the previous board, which we can still kind of figure out what that is.
Well, I mean, I think I need to see a plan though.
Well, that's what I was,
I mean,
that was my second part.
Yeah, I'd like to see a plan that shows what this really
Something
is.
that, yeah, this isn't even close to what's actually there.
It would be good to clean it all, right?
Question.
Yeah.
Where it
Think
says the
And then
building
go ahead.
improvement, are these conditions?
She
that
has
went
financial.
The additional.
All right, wait,
you know.
Ricky,
Oh,
wait,
look
wait,
at that.
It was
wait,
going
wait,
to-
wait.
On one floor,
Who's saying wait?
and it was,
So
these conditions
Danielle's,
are not being met.
Yeah, well, yeah, here's something very
No way,
interesting.
that perfect.
I think Melissa brings up a very good point. On the plans, under Roman numeral 4, it says building information. And it says here, the accessory apartment shall be located in the principal building. Okay. The owner will occupy one of the accessory apartments located on the subject property as his legal residence, which is odd. It says the apartment shall contain 1 bedroom. The accessory apartment shall contain 1,137 square feet. Square footage, 35%, blah, 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 blah. All right, so
So the original approval is for 1 bedroom, 1,137 square feet.
And a condition the owner will occupy.
And yes,
One
so-
of the accessory apartment, so where's the other?
well, no, I think that's just a nomenclature issue. One of the, so, I mean, maybe the application will be for a special exception use permit in accordance with the previous approvals. And maybe the application will have a floor plan which supports that when it comes in front of us. And then at that point in time, if we look to condition a number of people there and feel that that suffices to deal with the square footage issue, I would be comfortable with that. But it would need to have a floor plan, which was
Makes sense.
1,137 square feet, no more, and not orphan a room, which is just going to naturally be part of the apartment. And then it would need to make sense. And then at that point in time, I'm happy to defer to earlier boards.
And what number of occupants do you have in mind for that condition?
I just came up with that. So
Okay.
we that's something for us to discuss. I mean, I my heart wants to say
How many are there?
3. I mean,
One better?
well, 2 then. If it's a 1 bedroom, 2, right? Or with the, but you're allowed to have in a 1 bedroom, you're allowed to have 2 adults and a child. That's New York housing law.
The question
So-
is, what happens when the child becomes 5 years old?
That's not my problem. So,
Vic, Mr. Danielle's father-in-law is on and would like to speak. You probably all have heard of him. He's a builder and has been building in Somers forever. So, and Ricky has been very much a part of this whole conversation and back and forth with me and Tommy. So I just want you to be aware that he would like to speak when.
okay,
you
yeah,
guys
sir,
are
you
okay with that.
you could speak. Can you just give us your name and your address?
How you doing? I'm Rick Mancini. I live on 80 Light Road, just up the street from this residence.
Okay.
I just wanted to run by the board how this all happened. My kids bought this house. We were sitting in the living room. They went to Tommy to get this reapproved, and Tommy came walking through the back door. So, and I didn't even know like he was coming. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, this is the accessory apartment." I said, "No, it's not. It's upstairs." So we knew nothing about this. This was all during the height of COVID. We couldn't even get into the building department to research the plans. This is how we found out. The apartment, the way it was built, I knew Tony Meskowitz very well years ago. I was here with Ephraim. I was here with Ronnie. This apartment was always the top floor. There's no possible way it could have ever been built the way it was shown on the plan. There was no access. And Tommy agreed with all this. So the kids bought this property, tried to get it approved, and now to try to redo this, it's crazy. Tommy said, "Well, get the plans drawn up. Let's go before the board." I said, "I don't want these kids to spend a fortune on plans and go before the board to have problems. We wanted to come before you just to see what we could do here." It has been approved 3 or 4 times since then. What do we do? I mean, there's just no way. We had an architect come in. The house was like this. Yeah, they're just having a real rough time here. And I agree. The apartment is larger than the 1,100 square feet. It's the whole top floor. It's a 2-bedroom apart. 2-bedroom. It's a master. The way it's designed is that the 2 front rooms are actually 1 room, and the master bedroom, if you look at the plan in the back, is the other. Just the way you see it is the entire apartment upstairs. Downstairs.
What is the square footage of the second floor then, where this apartment resides?
Well,
Is it 1,600 square feet?
Yeah.
It looks here like it's about 35 by 48. Yes,
Yep.
35 by 48. So I don't have a calculator. That's the apartment in its entirety.
So
First floor.
So it's 1,680 square feet, which is double the size of an accessory apartment.
But so
you basically have a 2-family house.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, but so what we have, and I speaking only for myself, what I'm willing to give deference to is the approval which happened before many years. But what we're doing, what the ask is something different. The approval from before was 1,137 square feet, and the ask is 1,680.
Well, no, the approval was 1,680. The ask was 1,137.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
so-
In other words, it was designed to be what you're seeing, but it was approved to what it is right now. And it was approved 3 or 4 times to what it is right now.
Okay, but you're saying that
I mean, this is kind of like a real crazy situation. When Tommy told me what this was supposed to be, I said, "There's no way. I'm a builder in town. There's just no possible way it could have been built and then changed the way it was shown on this plan."
well, but so I'm not forgetting about the plan for a second. What I have in front of me as the approval, which is as part of this submission here, says that, these were the conditions. 1 bedroom, 1,137 square feet.
I'm aware of that.
So you're saying it was approved as a full floor, and
No,
and
I think
saying
it was
something different.
approved. I think the actual approval is what you were telling me, but it was never built that way. It was built as the entire second floor of the house.
Yeah, the approvals were
And-
granted based on an assumption which was inaccurate,
Yeah,
which
but
was
Right.
1171
Correct.
bedroom. Yeah.
I'm not
And
going to
they-
give deference to an inaccurate.
Yeah, and they got a
assumption.
building permit, and that permit was closed based on
So
inaccurate 1680 2 bedrooms, not
it would be
1137
unusual for the
1
board to grant a variance for a third, right? 800 going up to 1137 is about a third, but it happens. But I've never seen a variance for double on an accessory apartment.
But keep
So-
in mind, please, that this was not their doing. It was
No,
the doing of the original owner, and then the second owner got it approved twice after that.
More
So here
than
we
that,
walk into this. I'm sorry.
more than that.
And here we walk into this situation that, I mean, yeah, I'm a builder in town, but I don't really do accessory apartments in my new construction. So I really don't know any of the laws when it comes to that. We have the real estate company in town. So we looked into it. It's a 5-bedroom home. Everything worked out. As far as seeing these plans, it wasn't until Tommy actually came here and showed me the plan that was on file. And I said, "Tommy, there's no way." And I walked him through the house and he agreed with me. So at that point, we got the architect in to let him look at it so he could write up a letter to explain what was here. And this is what we have. I mean,
Wait,
you're right. It's a large apartment.
Nobody's doubting your word that this isn't self-created. I think everybody here has heard you and understands that there's a hardship here. I don't think anyone is saying that there's no hardship.
But is there a way we can get closer to compliance than we are right
Well,
now?
that's this picture right
Well,
there.
what I find very interesting is that this picture is specifically designed to take up part of the second floor and combine it with the first floor.
Yeah.
Right,
Because it's lighter color.
right.
The dark shaded area, I bet if we measure it out, will probably
It's
be
1137.
it'd be 1137.
Right.
But that dark area shows only one bedroom, is in conformance with the 1137, which is in conformance with the plans.
And it
So I
never
think
was,
this
and it was
plan was
never built that
drawn
way.
to specifically, well, but this
And it was
plan was specifically drawn and probably what was voted on, because this was the plan presented to the board and to the building inspector, because a big chunk of the second floor was attributable to the first floor.
Right.
And now
And it
we're
was
being
never,
asked
it was never
to
built. that
approve
way,
an accessory
though.
apartment. Actually, we're being asked to split a house in half between an accessory
Well, no,
apartment
because the
and
the
residence.
main floor,
It's, sir, excuse me one second.
I'm sorry.
The whole house is 3,300 square feet. You're asking for 1,600 and change.
No, the
This-
house has a
basically,
finished
you're asking
basement as
for
well.
a two-family house.
Right.
The
That's what
house
the
has a
reality
finished
is.
basement as well. There's a large family room, bathroom, 2-car garage, laundry room, and then we come up to the first floor, which is what we're calling the main house. And then on top of that is the apartment. So the apartment is definitely going to be smaller than the primary residence, the primary house.
Assuming you add the basement in place.
Well, no, it's all finished. It's full bathrooms finished. It's approved. It's permitted and C of O'd. And so the main quarters is definitely larger than the top floor.
Okay, so if they were to exclude this section here, which is listed as a bedroom, as it was drawn, it would be a lot easier to get to. If that section of the upstairs became
That
part
we're
of the
talking
main
about
house.
what was approved before
Right.
and giving deference to what was approved before, which is something that we've done in the past. We're not breaking new ground at that point in time.
Does
The
that-
only way to do that would be
Yeah,
to
that-
put the apartment back down on the first floor. So now you would have the main residence have the top floor and the lower floor, and there's just no way of getting to each floor without going through the apartment.
I don't think the first floor is the issue. The first floor is also 1,600 square feet.
Well, he's saying
Yeah.
that the ingress and egress is the issue.
Well,
Right.
ingress and egress is an interesting question. Yeah, because usually if we have, for example, an apartment, accessory apartment in a basement, the two egresses are one is straight outside and then one is into the remainder of the house. So usually there is two means of egress.
Right, there's only one.
I mean, yeah,
So
So when you reach the, I realize the plans aren't right, but just so that I understand it correctly, when you get to the top of the stairs, these plans would indicate there's a door to your right that goes into that bedroom. You're saying that, but that doesn't actually exist.
That never existed.
So the stairs, you go straight into the kitchen, and then I would imagine you make a right turn and then enter the bedroom from the
Bathroom.
Well, wait a minute. Are we talking about the main floor or the second floor?
the second floor.
Okay, so here's it. You can all envision a raised ranch. You walk into the front door, you walk onto a landing. You've got stairs going up and you've got stairs going down. That's the way this house is. However,
Right.
the stairs going up take you to the top floor, which is where the apartment is. The stairs going down take you to the main floor, and then another staircase going down to the lower level, which is where the family room, bathroom, and 2-car garage is. The way this was drawn, I suppose it could be done, but as far as if the main floor was on the main house, let's say, was on the top floor, there's no way of getting down to the lower level. It's just, there was no way this could ever have been built the way it was approved. The only thing I could think of was maybe it was designed like this originally before the basement was finished. I just don't know how they could have possibly done this. And it was never like this. It was just approved like this.
So let me just address two things. So one is a window can be a secondary means of egress. So I'm not concerned about the secondary means of egress, right? There's a lot of ways to handle that.
well,
Sure.
the floor window is not a great way to egress.
But it still qualifies under the code. And that's a code issue. It's not our issue. The only way I'll ever get to having a whole floor be an accessory apartment is by limiting the number of people, so it still feels accessory. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck personally. I feel like 1137 is big, and I would struggle to bring it to 1600.
Well, as far as the
Sounds
health department codes, you're allowed 2 people per bedroom. So if it's a 2-bedroom, the max that you could ever have here legally would be 4 people. So I mean, that in itself already has limitations on it.
Right. It seems to me that you want more than that.
No, that's not what they're looking for. They're just looking to get this thing approved the way it is. I mean, you know, Tommy and Denise both said to them, you cannot rent this until we get it resolved. It's been going on a long time. Believe me, I've had many conversations with Tommy and Denise over this. I finally got Tommy in here. We walked him through it and he agreed with me. There's no way it could possibly have been built this way. And we just don't, you know, we're coming at your mercy. What do we do? I mean, this is a real hardship for these
Like
people.
3 people. max.
Yeah, no, because,
And then
yeah, so for me, you know, 4 people, that's as many as you would have on the principal part of the house.
Well, not unless you're my wife and I. We had 5 children. It can happen.
God bless you.
Thank you.
You know, and I we certainly
And that
understand
makes 7
this.
people, by the way.
I mean, we certainly understand this, but also appreciate we have to work within certain constraints, and we're just trying to figure out a way to get there.
I understand. And that's why we're here.
I mean, let
It's
me
just
ask you
that-
this. Coming up the staircase, if you can't go to the right and break that off and make that part of the first floor, why can't you have a door to the left where it's indicated as a living room and break that area off?
Because there's
That's
no
part of the first-
landing at the top. You
It would be
you
ice.
walk in to a landing, you walk up to the top of the steps and you open a door to get into the apartment. There's no
Yeah.
landing there.
In other words, you can only go right. Can't go left.
No, you can only walk in straight.
You walk into the apartment.
Oh, I see.
Correct.
Really, it's
If you look at the picture
So
where
we're-
the shaded
Unless
part
you,
is,
unless you add more stairs, unless you have a,
Right up in-
unless you have a base landing and then have stairs going up, right?
Well,
To the left.
that's exactly what he
no,
wants.
because there's no landing there.
yeah. I mean, in a raised ranch, right? That you
Yeah.
can't. That floor is just never going to be part of the
It is what it
the
is.
floor below it. There's just really
Correct.
no way to. There's no connectivity possibilities there without building like another stairway or
Yeah, there's no,
something,
it's not feasible.
No, it's not at all. Not feasible.
And we understand that, you know, we saw the letter, that it's been the same way for a long time. But there is something about precedence, and, you know, doing double a square footage is a big precedent. And that's a big ask.
Well, it's a big ask for 11,370
Yes.
too.
But I'm
It's a
saying-
big-
and I'm
Our
saying
big ask is over
16 I'm trying to articulate that 1,600 is a very big ask.
It's double.
Very big. ask.
It's double the size.
I say that's trying to make a 2-family house
Yeah.
But please keep in
into a
mind,
1-family house with an auxiliary apartment.
please keep in mind though, that this apartment was built the way it is and it was approved by your boards multiple times.
But it was approved by our boards, but this was approved by our boards.
No. You're
This
right.
plan,
It was
this-
originally approved,
1137.
never built.
Yeah, this plan lays out very clearly 1137 square feet,
No,
one
I
bed.
understand, but what
And
I'm
then we have a
trying to
plan
say-
that's highlighted that shows it. So if this was brought before the board and this was the original approval, it's not
That's-
accurate. That's not our fault.
But wait, the way
It's
Tommy
exception.
walked into the house when we were here, isn't that what every inspector prior to Tommy is supposed to do? Walk into the house, make sure nothing has been changed.
They
It's been
can,
approved.
they're not required to.
Yes, they are. By
Oh, of
code,
course.
they are
How could they
required.
possibly say nothing's been changed?
By code, they have to, the building inspector has to inspect the apartment and confirm that it was built as per,
Well, apparently that was an error.
clearly,
Correct.
numerous times. That's
No.
why, that's why, that's why we feel like this is certainly a hardship. Like, you're gonna be punished for what,
There's a
5
hardship.
inspections confirmed that was incorrect.
And if you looked at this house, there's nothing that they could possibly do to bring it back to like a 1-family. It's a raised ranch with a second floor raised ranch on top of it. So how do you change that?
You want to see it.
Yeah, I think you
So-
should make a landing going partway up the stairs and then go to the right or left with more stairs.
I don't know if other board members want to share their opinion with them. I've shared mine. I don't know this. I mean, I'd be in favor of an
let me ask
application
you
at
a question.
1137.
If you tried to do what you're saying that we could possibly do, how would the apartment people get out of the apartment without walking through the main floor residence?
That's really a question for your architect. That's not a
Well,
question.
no, but it's not a question. It's actually, I'm trying to tell you that it's impossible to do what you're asking.
Oh,
I mean, you couldn't put a staircase to reach those 2 bedrooms from the main floor and then expect the apartment upstairs, which is the shaded area, to walk down through the main floor apartment to get out of the house. It's just impossible.
Well, right now they go out the back. It looks like there's a door out the back.
No,
That's not going to change.
right now the plan shows it going out the back, but the
That's
way it
not-
was built,
But it
the
doesn't
shaded
exist.
areas on the top
Doesn't
floor.
exist.
That doesn't-
So how do they get out of the apartment now?
The
They
main.
walk down the steps to the landing and right out the front door.
Okay.
So it's a common entryway,
Correct.
right? You got steps, so you walk in, raise ranch, you got steps up, steps down.
Yeah, steps up,
Put
bring
a
it to the
door on
apartment,
both.
steps down,
So it's
bring
a
it to the
common
main house.
entryway. You go. Yeah.
So one mitigatory thing which could be done is that could not be a bedroom anymore. And there could be a limit on the number of people. And then it could be left alone. I don't know how many board members would agree with that, but that's
So in other words,
so
Would that be?
for it to not be a bedroom, once you take away the closets and open up the wall, it's no longer a bedroom. And then if we put a limit on the number of people in the special exception use permit, we've in some way made it accessory without causing him to destroy the house.
You'll still have to give them a variance for 300.
Yes, but
300.
1,600.
I'll be explaining the
800
variance and how it's accessory by saying it's a 1-bedroom and it's a special case that can't be renovated, and we limited the number of people.
But the house it is a 5-bedroom home. What do we do with that extra bedroom? You know,
It becomes one large bedroom. And I'm just saying that's, I'm trying to see I'm trying to help you by have the benefit of what the board is reacting to by putting out different ideas.
right. That's one way that's one way that gets us closer to being able to do it.
I'm telling you that I don't see anyone's faces who's voting in favor of giving you 1,637 square feet.
well, I mean, I think
As is.
we bought this, not we, my kids bought this house. It was the way it is. We had a professional architect come in to say that it hasn't been changed. The boards approved it 4 times, 5 times, whatever the case was. So that's kind of our position here. Somebody screwed up and it wasn't them. So like, what do we do here?
Town has the
Right,
obligation.
so
Town
we're
has the
not saying
obligation.
that nobody screwed up, but a 1,600 square foot variance is going to be really hard to come by. So we're trying to give other options.
Hold on, you're saying,
There.
I'm sorry, can I just,
Precedent, right?
so you
Wait,
guys are
slow
saying
down.
that.
Ricky, tell them who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ricky Mancini, Junior.
Hi,
But you
Ricky.
guys just said that nobody screwed up, but I mean, Denise just said that according to the town and what you guys have on file, the inspector has to walk through with the plans when they do an inspection of the property. So if there have been multiple inspections of this property, we're under the assumption that the town did their due diligence in inspecting this property. And I mean, it's really hard to say nobody screwed up when we're in this situation when we got our mortgage contingent on the fact that the town did their due diligence. Because of this, we were denied having to have somebody rent the apartment. My wife had to change her career completely. And again, this is all based on the assumption that the signatures that are there on file indicate that the town did their due diligence. So I think that that's where we're kind of having a problem with, well, nobody screwed up, but they kind of did.
And it happens. And I have a similar thing in my house with something which should have been done and wasn't done, but it happens. And we're still where we are. And
Right, but I
think
mean, this
the
went on for
board is
30
willing
years.
to work
I
with
mean,
you.
just, saying that, well, it happened and I'm sorry, we're here. Our mortgage was contingent on the signatures on file from the town. So if the town signs off saying, hey, we approve this, then I mean, how can you guys turn around and say, well, maybe not? I mean, because you're indicating that the town did not do their due diligence by having somebody inspect the property with plans in hand, because if they had, you guys would have seen this 30 years ago.
But Mr. Go ahead.
Sorry. If you look at the map under section 4, when this was approved, it was approved for 1 bedroom and it was clearly approved for 1,137 square feet. So if it was then after the fact constructed to a different size,
It was never constructed that way originally.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever constructed that way.
But-
originally. We
but it was
understand how
designed,
it was
it was
approved.
designed that way at some point from the conditions that were placed on the granting of the special exception use permit. Those didn't carry over in actuality to the design of this apartment.
Yeah, so what was approved is the 1137 with 1 bedroom.
But
And
what was
I
approved
understand-
is also showing doorways and easements that don't exist and never did. And
Yeah,
that's
but-
where the due
But the town
diligence.
didn't draw these
But so-
plans.
So somebody
Right, but the
submitted
town
plans
approved
which weren't true.
And I do understand that the town did not draw these plans, but the town had a representative of the town come in and approve this multiple times.
You,
Looking at the conditions that the town set,
the,
and if you can get to those conditions, I think we would have some leeway to work with you, but
Well, the problem is why would I go backwards and go to conditions that never existed? And I can show you, and we've had an
They
architect
did
come in
exist.
and say that these didn't exist. I mean, I can't create doorways in areas that have had electric running through them since this house was constructed. They didn't exist.
these conditions do exist and we are reading
But they
that.
exist under a false pretense that the house was constructed in the way that you guys are seeing, and we're showing you through an architect that this existed only on paper and not in reality. So
So-
the assumption was after an inspector comes in here multiple times over the course of 30 years, that they would have caught this if they had plans in hand.
And that's the
Yeah.
assumption that the inspector coming in was being shown the space accurately.
it doesn't.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I guess I need clarification on your comment. I'm not understanding that.
We don't know when the inspectors came in previously, what space they were shown and.
No, we have that all on file.
Yeah.
We have it all on file.
It was
Well,
shown-
but an inspector shows up and you show him a space,
Well, if the inspector has those
if
plans
the
on
inspector
file,
was
like-
showing up and just shown the space that's highlighted on these plans, then
but the problem is that it's not like that. So if the inspector had walked into this house, this doesn't exist. That's the problem. So if the inspector had done their due diligence and come in with the plans as they
Yeah, but you know
indicated on
something?
30.
Yeah. I don't know what the inspector did or didn't do, whether they showed up or didn't show up. The only thing I can say is that I do see a plan in front of us in writing, provided by the applicant, which shows an apartment highlighted on the plans and that conforms to the 1137 and 1 bedroom. And now we're told, oh no, that's not right.
And the plan that you're looking at is from
1,600 square feet,
1993.
which is, 50% of the square feet of the house above ground, excluding the
less than that.
basement. I don't know. We're
So, you know,
approving
the plans,
apartment
so,
for
and I do
double the
understand
size.
I do understand what you're saying, but the plans that you're looking at, respectively, are from 1993. Since 1993, I believe Denise said there's been 4 inspections on this property. So if this didn't exist, there would have been no possible way for the inspector at the time and to say, well, you don't know if the inspector showed up. The inspector's signature is there. The inspector did show up and they approved what they saw or didn't see and approved it anyway. That's my point.
Mr. Mancini,
Yes.
from with all due respect, from a legal standpoint, the case law I've seen, and there was actually one in Heritage, as an example, there was a number of condos in Heritage which were developed, which had the hot water heaters in a crawl space or something of that like, where they're not allowed to be by code. And the building inspector inspected them, and the courts find that there's no liability if the building inspector inspected something and it's not true.
So
And
there's
they-
no liability whatsoever if the signature is on file saying that this was approved?
No, but what it does speak to in your favor is that this wasn't self-created.
Right.
And that there's no fault on your part. And the whole board understands that. And so
I guess I do appreciate that. I genuinely do. But I think what the board doesn't understand, because it's very hard to see, you guys are looking at something that doesn't exist. And for me to try to explain to you why this is such a hardship looking at something that doesn't exist, it's very hard to really articulate that to you.
You know, I think we understand that it doesn't exist as drawn, right?
Right.
I think what you can, if you can appreciate that we have certain parameters and a legal obligation, right, to stay within certain parameters, and this particular application would greatly exceed those parameters. So we have we have an obligation to fulfill as well, and so we're just trying to figure out a way. We totally understand your hardship, and I'd like to get that resolved for you.
Right.
To
Of
do
course,
that,
but
I
out of
can't- I
respect,
can't-
respectfully, I
can't-
mean, isn't part of your legal obligation if an inspector comes in to inspect a property, isn't that also part of the legal obligation that it's going to be correct?
No.
How is that not part of it?
Case, and in this case, the acting inspector has come in with plans and is noticing that it doesn't match what we have on file. So
He's the
it's
first guy who
before
did his job.
our board now to apply the code accurately to his inspection. So it is being discovered. It's unfortunate after all these years, it's being discovered now at this late juncture, but it's not for us to shirk our shoulders at our obligation to apply the code.
Which is understandable, but I think, again, it goes back to due diligence. And you can't say, well, as a board, we can tell you that we didn't do our job correctly for 30 years. Or the comment was the first guy to do his job. Well, we're sitting here holding the bag. I mean, we've had to change our entire life because of this. And I do understand that you're saying, yes, it's a hardship, but to say, well, now you have to change things when we've already gone through so much. I mean, it's very, I'm having a hard time really coming to terms with you saying that there's no obligation from the town to be correct when there's an inspection done. I'm just having a hard time swallowing that.
Yeah, I mean, we're speaking for the zoning board, right?
Well,
Not for the town or.
That was my personal opinion. I was speaking for
But you're a
myself.
representative of the board and understand that, and I understand that you might want to make light of certain things, and I get that, but I'm not making light of this because I'm very adamant about the fact that we stepped into something that we should not have stepped into because of the signatures on file. We're in accordance with with what you guys are actually supposed to do. This wouldn't have been a problem because this would have been caught when the person acting in that capacity.
Mr. Mancini, you're asking us now to do something we're not supposed to do. I mean, it's your logic is literally saying, just let it go. And we're trying to
I'm not saying let it
offer.
go at all. I'm not saying let it go. On the contrary, what I'm saying is since you've been letting this go and improving this from a legal standpoint, if the town has approved this over 30 years, I feel like there's precedence here showing that this has not been changed. And I understand, again, you're going back to the hardship, but this is two separate issues. So you understand the hardship, but it's very hard to understand that, I'm not going to come under any kind of financial obligation when I showed our mortgage company the approvals from the town. And our mortgage was contingent on those signatures. So to say that there's no obligation, there's due diligence that we've missed here.
Sir, let me say something also. I mean, you're saying that you relied on the sign-offs of the previous, inspections done by the building inspector. Okay.
Right, the representative of the town.
So you relied on those documents, but yet did you also rely on the plans? I mean, you're an experienced building family.
I couldn't get into the town during COVID, sir.
And you can see what's,
Sir,
please don't interrupt. And you can see what's printed out here. I mean, if you look at all the documents, one must have said, hey, wait a minute.
Sir,
This is not how the
plan
department looks. I mean, I think you have some obligation here. If you're looking at all the documents, part of the documents are the plans. And this is very clearly stated here. And I think the board was, really going to consider, okay, maybe we would grant a variance for 1,137 square feet. But now we're being asked to grant a variance for 1,800, 1,600.
Sir, the board was
double
the building department
apartment. We're supposed to keep variances to their absolute minimum. Are we complying with that standard of keeping it to the absolute minimum here?
But sir, the building department was closed during COVID and we had no access to those plans. So again, we relied on the town's approvals. Our mortgage company had to see proof that the town approved this. We couldn't get in to see these plans.
Okay, make a suggestion here. What would happen if you remove the two closets in the two bedrooms and make it a walk-in attic for the residents downstairs? This way it would lower the square footage, and I think that would solve the whole problem.
There's no way to get to it. That's the problem.
How would the apartment get
You're
out?
going
And then
through
the
the
apartment, there'd be, how could the apartment get out at that point?
But is there any way you can alter that to do that?
So
No,
just,
there's really
you're
not.
looking here, you gotta be looking here. You gotta be looking at the top floor.
That's what it's actually there.
So that's the issue, is you come up those
I'm
stairs,
looking at the
you're looking at the other level. I want to be clear, I wasn't trying to make light of your situation. I was trying to tell you that I occasionally do legal research, and I don't believe that the building department's sign-offs have the legal significance that you think they do.
Well, I mean, they're representing that the town approves something. I mean, there's got to be some kind of due diligence. I mean, that's kind of saying that these signatures don't mean anything then.
What if we lock the doors for the bedrooms?
Need to be going over.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Again,
So-
here, we see.
so I-
Repetitive, and they don't mean things going forward.
So,
And
my idea is of things I'm
What about
willing to
locking the doors? If you just lock the doors?
lock the doors to the bedroom.
Yeah.
You're gonna have two spaces that you can't.
It's still a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, I mean, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. Then if you lock the doors.
That's great in theory, but not really in practicality.
You make it a storage.
I mean, I understand that, but I mean, in theory, in practicality, I can't access that 2nd bedroom upstairs with the plans that are on file.
What about if it's storage?
It actually looks like 3 bedrooms if you in
the way it looks. Right.
in my appearance. Because there's separate closets in each bedroom. But that said, in terms of mitigation, for me, having a limit on the number of people is one way which would help me feel more comfortable.
So how many people? I mean, with the 2-bedroom, I mean, you'd said 4 before.
So no, I see that as the code as a 1-bedroom, which would be 3 people.
That's your proposal.
That's just my idea of trying to help you get a 1,600 square foot thing approved. I don't know how many people I can carry with that idea.
I don't think I could vote for a 16.
I mean, I wouldn't rent to more than that anyway. So
The problem, I get problem with it's been granted so many times.
So in terms of keeping the whole floor, the only ideas I have are opening up that whole those 3 bedrooms into 1 and putting a limit on the number of people.
Well, I can't open the 3 into 1 because there's a hallway in between.
Why don't you make the basement the accessory apartment?
Because it's impossible to do that. There's no kitchen. It's our family room with our laundry room.
Yeah, I mean, then they'd have an extra kitchen. I mean, that would be how this probably should have been designed.
Could you install a small kitchen?
Well, then there's no egress though. That's the problem.
It's a 3-family.
So that you only enter the basement from inside the house. Is that right? There's no
Yes.
separate entrance to that
Yeah,
basement.
well,
right?
or the garage, but there is a door in between, obviously.
Door into the garage and then door up.
No, there's a door that goes into the garage, and there's also a door then that goes into that family room downstairs.
No, it goes up the
But to get to the basement, you have stairs going down, right?
Yes.
So that's 2 ways.
So, yeah, I mean, the zoning board has continued to approve this.
Yeah.
Based on
But they
an
based on this-
inaccurate presentation.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And so
The zoning board probably did its job reasonably well over all those years
because
they were presented with what they thought was 1137 and 1 bedroom
and no change.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been on the zoning board for over 20 years, and I can tell you, we have never approved a 1,600 square foot accessory apartment.
You approved this though.
Well, that's not, we represented 1137.
I'm holding you to this.
No, did not approve this.
I'm gonna go out on a
Never
limb
did.
and say, Vic, I've been here a long time now too. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the square footage was probably never mentioned. Hence the reason for now our checklist, which holds us a little bit more accountable. And Tommy's liking that checklist so much that he made me add some more things to it. So I mean, I could tell you, being the secretary to the zoning board now for probably 15 years, it was very, pretty basic. It didn't say the number of bedrooms, it didn't say the square footage. And so I could see how you guys thought you were doing due diligence, but clearly somebody who was supposed to wasn't. I don't know.
I think we've always, complied with the code.
Well, to give him the feedback he needs, is anybody else, Vic, you're not okay with 1,600 square feet, no matter how it.
Neither am I.
I cannot.
Neither, so,
No.
so that's not going to carry anyways. Right?
You need 4 out of 7 votes.
That's 4.
You need 4 out of 7 votes one way or another.
And you have to understand, it's not because we want for this hardship to continue for you, we would just be being asked to do something that we is just beyond the limits of what we can do. I mean, now that, and yes, it's been done before, but now it's known. So the members of this board, would be being asked to vote for something that is just way beyond the realm of what they'd be comfortable with.
What about a use variance and make it a 2-family? That'd be easier to grant.
A use variance is a very, very high hurdle.
Yeah.
I know, but
there's no other solution to the property, and the property is pretty much unusable.
Okay, but so what we have here is we have somebody who had a financial expectation, which is part of the test. Right. And they came in here, they understood they were renting the apartment. The house has been set up. The harm wasn't self-created. It meets a fair amount of the use variance test. And this would be easier that way than a double area there.
I don't think we're close to
I don't
use
think
variance.
I would go that way. The no substantial use, I mean, maybe they don't want to use it as a 1-family, but it's very much viable as a 1-family home, or it can also be sold as a 1-family home and have financial.
It actually can, because but again, you're looking at plans that don't exist. There is no natural flow for it to be a 1-family home. It's literally a raised ranch stacked on top of a raised ranch.
And there's 2 kids from 1995.
But someone else could decide they're going to renovate it and make it a flow home. It has.
Well, I can actually get you something from the architect if you'd like, because I asked him that very question, if it could be. And the architect said that he really couldn't imagine a scenario where this house could be turned into a house that works and flows, because the way the staircase is set up, it was literally set up and built to be a 2-family home. It looks like there's no way to move that staircase. There's no way to move anything. There's no room.
The use variance applications I've seen in other communities which pass, and I haven't been on the board nearly as long as most of these people, so I'm referring to my experience in other towns. There's an estimate from an architect which shows that it's impractical economically to turn it into anything else and to have any type of reasonable rate of return. And so I don't know how I see some negative faces, but that's a potential avenue. Me personally, I feel better about this with the use variance as a 2-family than a 1,600 square foot area variance.
How does that affect the taxes going from a 1-family home to a?
The taxes are.
I don't think we can advise them.
Are ad valorem, right? So this is me just speaking at the board. Taxes are ad valorem, meaning it's the value of your home. So in that neighborhood, whether a 2-family would be more valuable or less valuable would be the determination of our assessor. And you could ask our assessor that question, whether the house would be more valuable or less valuable. I don't think it would be any real delta in your area. And so I don't think it would affect taxes. But
now with that special use, does that also have us coming to you guys again every 7 years, to have this renewed, or is that just for the life of the property at that point?
A use variance would be for the life of the property.
Okay.
And you would never have to come back. You would have to review the use variance test, and you would have to confer with your architect, and it's not a slam dunk, but I feel better about it than an area variance of this size.
Can I ask then, how does the board feel about that, since this is a discussion?
Go ahead.
I personally think a use variance is very, very difficult to obtain. you basically have to prove that there is no economic use for the property and the variances and the use variance is required. I think in my history on this board, the number of use variances that I can recall that we've done, I think it's either 0 or 1.
Oh, wow.
I remember one.
I don't know of any. No.
If you speak to an attorney about your chances of getting a use variance, plus you also have to think about too, how about if you're a neighbor and now all of a sudden the property next to you has been approved as a multifamily?
I've spoken to my neighbors actually at length about this because of this going on so long. And the neighbors indicated that they have no problem with the way the property has been. There have been people that lived here that rented. And this has just been a house that's had an accessory apartment for as long as they remember. As next door as well, so so
the test is an applicant cannot realize a reasonable return on his or her property. This inability must be substantial as shown by competent financial evidence. The alleged hardship is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood. So
the first test is
cannot realize a reasonable return on his or her property.
Meaning the property is basically
well,
the
property was approved with an accessory apartment. So I mean, now saying that you guys want to knock off a bedroom and possibly knock off the accessory apartment, that would constitute a bit of I can't get a reasonable rate of return for what I bought it for.
I mean, they'd probably have to demonstrate that they couldn't get a variance. So they might have.
Well,
file
I
that
think
and
we
be
could
rejected.
It sounds like that's the way we're going.
Yeah, but I'm saying they may need to go through that process.
Yes. So I mean, I don't know if there's any more. I don't know if there's any more advice. There's no more advice I have. Let me say that.
Well, Vic, with the 20 years and clearly it looks like a 2-family home is built, right? Well,
this is a 1-family neighborhood though.
I agree.
But
my point is what would constitute not a variance, but getting an approval on this? Like what idea have you seen in the past for, is it?
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to leave with more questions. I mean, if the board has suggestions on what would constitute, a fair use for this, I mean, I'm all ears. I just, we're at the point where we're just very frustrated with this.
Yeah. I think the board would be going to above and beyond, but might be acceptable to go to the 1-bedroom 1137. I mean, if that's what was approved in the past and that was supposedly what was inspected, would we maybe?
Why can't I deem them as storage then? Because you can't combine those bedrooms.
Sir, but now to consider 1,600, we're adding more onto that. We're basically taking a 2-family house and splitting it, a 1-family house and splitting it in 2.
Exactly.
I can't vote for that.
So the problem is I can't combine the 3 bedrooms into 1 like you're suggesting. There's a hallway that exists there that I can't combine the rooms.
You're saying that hallway is structural and supports.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a raised branch hallway. It's absolutely structural. I cannot combine those rooms.
Plus we don't have really good plans to look at here. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't even know what we're really looking at, We're going to approve a 1,600 plus square foot accessory apartment when only 800 is allowed, with plans that don't seem to conform. And the plans even indicate what the requirements were originally.
right.
So
We're not opposed to getting the plans though.
Have an application.
Okay, because I can't imagine. That's the plan.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of discussed this ad nauseum here. I mean, I don't know how much more we're going to go review at this point in time.
I
And
think
keep in
the
mind-
applicants need to make up their mind based on what we've
Make an
discussed
application.
and submit an application.
Yeah. I mean, the applicant is welcome to submit an application with plans though. And
The only thing is you're not really giving us any direction here. You were talking, I mean, the whole reason for us to come before the board was to not spend the money on plans. They've already put a ton of money into this place. And like he said earlier, the mortgage was based on the living space for it to be rented. That's not happened. It's a real hardship.
Imagine forward without.
At this point, we don't want to, architects are probably as expensive as builders are. We don't want to put a whole lot of money into a plan come back before the board to maybe get a denial.
Well, I
Just
think the
looking
board
for-
has given you a lot of input on where we have problems. I think.
No, I understand we have problems, but no
We should
input in
really
terms
only
of,
be examining applications, and we're giving you a lot of discussion here. And there isn't even an application before us. I
understand it, but
we've
there's
given you a lot of advice. I think you saw from a lot of the members on the board that approving a 1,600 square foot apartment is problematic with me. And there's at least 2 or 3 other board members who agree with that, maybe more. So 1,600 square feet, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm only 1 vote of 7. You need 4 votes on this board.
no, I understand that, but we're just looking. Well, let me put it
tell
this
you
way.
what to do, sir, because you could say that, well, you told me to do this and I did it, and then you voted no. There's 7 different opinions on this board. Each person's opinion is of equal weight. You can make an application, but I think we've given some very good guidance on where we see problems.
Oh, well, the only thing that I'm getting out of this is the problem is 1,600 square feet. And what we're saying is there's no way of changing that. So I'd like to somehow get to a middle point of what everybody is comfortable with. Now, somebody on the board talked about limiting the people that could be living there. That I think we could go with. Maybe the upstairs making that one large bedroom. I mean, I tell you what's going to happen. It's going to probably be a young couple with a child. Beyond one child, someone's going to have to move out of this apartment. It's not like you're going to get 7 kids living in this little apartment up here. So we just need some sort of direction. What do we do? I mean, we're not going to knock the top floor of this house down, because that would certainly solve all the problems. The way it was built is not the way it was approved. And now they're stuck in the middle. We just need direction. What do we do here? I mean, Denise said you can't rent. I mean, somebody else may have said, you know what, screw this. We're going to rent this apartment. And what do we do then? They haven't done that. They're looking for your guidance. We just need to know, what do we do?
It's not our responsibility to solve this problem.
Well, I think,
but honestly, and when I say you, I'm directing it to the town, not necessarily this board. The problem was that it was approved 4 or 5 different times since it was built, and it was not built according to the plan that it was approved by. I would have understood maybe once, I would have understood twice, but so that's the problem. So you talk about setting precedents. I don't know. I mean, you're leaving these kids with no other choice. But what do we do? They're not going to knock the house down. They already live here. They're not going to not use this upstairs forever. I mean, we're simply coming for guidance. That's all.
Mr. Mancini?
Well, Mr. Mancini, you guys are builders.
That's
and
correct.
What you're challenging us to do is your job. You're a builder. And that means that
I didn't build this apartment.
Somehow or other, that house.
But I didn't build it. It was built, and you guys.
No, sir. But
when I say you guys, I mean the town in general.
Well, your children bought it, so you now have it. So now, as a builder, your challenge is to figure out how to come up with an apartment in that building that's somewhere around 800 square feet. And,
all right, so to do what you're
all
asking,
the problems, because I owned a house in Chappaqua that was exactly like your plans.
It was not, because let me explain. When the apartment is on the middle floor and the main house is on the top floor, how do we now get from the main house apartment to the lower apartment, to the lower half of the main house?
Can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Because what you came here for was advice. And from my perspective on reading this board, my personal advice or viewpoint is that if you come forward with an 1,137 square foot.
It's not going to happen. I'll tell you what, gentlemen.
Well, let me finish.
Why don't we just vote on this right now to end this? So then we can just proceed on how we have to. So we can get all the votes in check. We'll get our yeas, we'll get our nays, and then we'll go forward, because we're just going round and round in circles. It's impossible for us to do an application. Please let me finish. Please. It's impossible for us to, structurally impossible for us to do what is on the plan. And you keep going back to, I'm the professional builder, I should do it. I can't do it. So why don't we just take a vote? We'll get our yays, we'll get our nays, and we'll go forward from here, and we'll just see how it unravels.
Mr. Mancini, can I just finish with all due respect?
Sir,
Absolutely.
Okay, so to your last point, the board would be happy to make a vote once we have an application in front of us. And what I was trying to articulate, what I think your probabilities are on different applications to help you for when you do put an application forward. And so what I think the board will likely.
But what are we applying for?
a two-family?
A two-family, an apartment that
that's-
doesn't exist?
So you have to, that's something.
Well, that's your decision. And
No,
you're
but
asking,
we're applying for what we have and what we've always had, but not what you approved on your paper. So this is the big confusion. Please understand our part in this.
We do understand, and we
do.
I don't think you do.
Yes, we do.
I was trying to help. That's
No, I
it.
understand you're trying to help, but look at what we have here. I do appreciate it. We have something that on paper that never existed. And I understand you're stuck on what's on paper that cannot exist. It will separate the main living quarter. The main living quarter was upstairs and the bottom floor, and the apartment itself is in the middle floor, according to the way it was drawn. That can't happen. So then we have to just gut the whole basement that's there, the laundry room, the family room. The only thing we'd have is a large garage downstairs. Then we could do it. But it's just impossible to do structurally the way it's on paper. We came to you for advice. What do we need to do? So yes, we don't have an application before you because we weren't really sure how to proceed. I said to Tommy, I don't want these kids to draw up a plan to come before you to get what we're getting tonight. Like, we're just looking for some sort of guidance.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has offered a few suggestions
But no, you really haven't.
And you
Well,
were something
yeah.
about the two-family versus, I'm sorry, I'm Joan Mancini. The parents, as another parent. You had mentioned something about doing a two-family versus an accessory apartment. And you said that, well, creates another problem. My feeling is that whether you have a two-family or an accessory apartment, it's still the same bedroom count. It's still the same people coming in and out. You're not going to get any more than a certain amount. So what is the difference?
We have different legal standards. And so that's our difference. If it's a two-family, it's a different variance than if it's a accessory apartment. And so they're different tests. I know the end result is the same, but part of the problem is we want to treat everybody similarly, and we want to follow the law as best we can. And so it's very hard for us to get to a double variance. It's almost never seen. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen one. But I have seen use variances, and I think for me, this is closer to the use variance test, but use variances are much rarer than area variances. And so
what are the main things that they would need to do for the use variance?
And who approves it?
And who
so
approves it?
the same board approves it, but but you have to show that you can't realize a reasonable return on your property. And you have to show that your hardship is unique.
Right.
And it doesn't apply to the whole neighborhood.
But
and I think you can show that your hardship's unique, like this house was built as a two-family. And then you just need to show that you can't realize a reasonable return on the property. And somebody, a builder, a accountant, somebody could do an estimate, an architect. And if you felt that was convincing, that's a way forward.
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of object to what you're saying, Bart, because we're giving a possible applicant advice as to how they should proceed. And I don't think we should be taking responsibility for advising them on what they should do. I think you should maybe, if you want to, speak with an attorney who's experienced in zoning matters. And I think as soon as you tell that attorney you're going to look for a use variance for this property, I think the attorney is going to tell you that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, but I think
I don't want to give you advice, though. I mean,
no, I hear what you're saying, but this is
giving you input as to how we feel about this matter, and I think you have to proceed from here. It is not our job to find a solution for your problem. We have pointed out for you the issues that we have and the concerns.
Actually, the
We've
town
all
is
taken an oath to follow the zoning code in Somers. The zoning code in Somers requires
the
accessory apartments not exceed 800 square feet. We give reasonable relief from the zoning code, but that is supposed to be the minimal possible. And we have to consider all factors. And
but it was
there
not followed, and
be
you guys
substantial.
approved it. So we're just looking for guidance. It was not
No, we
followed
have
from
signed
day one.
architectural plans that are sealed right here in front of us that you have provided that clearly lay
No,
out.
we didn't provide them. That's what was provided in 1993.
Sir, if the previous building inspectors were relying on these plans are not accurate. And they're sealed.
That's correct.
Architect with a seal right here and a signature, and they're not accurate. We don't have
But
plans.
that was done in 1993.
Okay.
I move to close the matter.
Okay, yes, okay. We have a motion to close the matter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
So we're going to close the matter at this point in time. Sir, I think we've given you some advice. You have to take it.
Give me any advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to continue on with the meeting at this point in time. Has everybody had a chance to, by the way, just for the record, the matters of 39 Cypress Lane is carried over or postponed to the next meeting, possibly the next meeting or maybe the following. And the application of Victor and Deborah Wu is carried over to the next monthly meeting on April 18th, as discussed.
They got their FOIL requests responded to.
Yes, I gave that to them. And I also made, Mike Caruso aware that I would notify him after the meeting as to whether or not they can plan to come April 18th or they should, plan for May. So I will let them know what you're asking for and that they should be at the April 18th meeting, and they're going to have to get their submissions to me by this Friday in order to be on the April 18th agenda. So I will email as soon as we're done. I'm going to email both the Wu's attorney and the neighbor's attorney as well.
Okay. And then last item on the agenda is the February 21, 2023 meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, we did.
Any changes, concerns, issues? No? Okay, I'll take a vote in favor of approving the May 21, 2023 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one opposed? Okay. Denise, you can consider the February 21st meeting minutes approved.
Thank you.
Any other issues we want to discuss before we adjourn?
No.
Anything else? Okay, I think we're going to wrap up the meeting. Good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.